Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
Good evening, and welcome to Wolves Fancast Review Show in association with the Sports Social Podcast Network, FC Quiz.app, and the Boston Coffee Company. I can't even speak again. Let's start well. So I'm your host, Jafar, and joining me to talk about Man City away in what would have been a seventh win in a row if we'd have taken our chances is Ed, Tom Calver, and Greg Richards. I'll come to you first, Ed. How's everything? How's the week gone for you? And how are you feeling going into that Man City game?
Yeah, not a bad week. Thanks, mate. Thanks for asking. Got a nice long weekend. Didn't know it was a bank holiday Monday until Friday, so that was a nice bonus. When I told people in my office that I'd see them Monday, they told me I wouldn't. So that was all right. And as for the Man City game, I remember I told my dad before the game started, I didn't see us losing. That's how confident I was. And I think the way the game played out, I don't think a draw would have been, off the cards. So I was confident, and obviously 6 in a row was still being sung around the house by me and Jacob. More me than the 10-year-olds, which probably tells you all that you need to know about my first season ticket in a while that I've had this year. But I was quietly confident going into the game, mate.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were, and the confidence is built massively around this side, hasn't it, Tom? That Vitor Pereira's really got all the fans back on side. People really look invested in the football side of things at the club now.
Yeah, 100%, and it counts for so much. It really does. So yeah, everyone, when Wolves is a great club to be at when the connection's there between the players, the manager, and the fans. So you can't beat it. All those years under Nuno, it was just like magic. And if we can get anywhere close to that with Vitor, then yeah, I'm all in. And he's made a great start to it. So fingers crossed he can take that momentum into next season, and we can really have another wave of optimism for a few seasons, rather than just having half season of shite and then the half season where we've got to recover.
Yeah, massively, and I think that's a good point, Greg. That the way that Vitor Pereira's tenure has gone so far as a Wolves manager is we've got a certain amount of expectation and there's no fear now going into next season that we're going to be fighting a relegation battle again, is there? And he's set it up in such a way that we can enjoy watching games again.
Going back to Tom's point around Nuno, I think the thing we've got now is an identity. And I think that's the key. We've got a kind of a style of play and approach, and I think that, and you can see the players are bought into that. And I think that's the key there. And we look solid, which again is always a good starting point. And I think we then build out from there. So yeah, no, I agree. I think we'll be going into the summer rather than where we were last year, where it was like a bit of a bad run to tail off, and then it kind of carried on. Now we're kind of on an upward trajectory, and that they want to finish the season.
Yeah, massively, and I think having that positivity going into the summer is going to be massive, Ed. Looking at the sort of game straight away, though, 7 p.m. on the Friday, the team sheets come out. The rumour that Jurgen Strand-Larsen obviously was injured came true. He drops out of the team. Seeing Matheus Cunha play in that position where Jurgen Strand-Larsen is, you'd be a little bit worried about the balance of the side, wouldn't you, and how he'd be able to fill that role in. How did you feel looking at that team sheet?
Yeah, obviously we can, and we have talked constantly on Matheus Cunha and whether or not, what does he bring to, what does he take away? We saw in the Leicester game that he's unplayable, like we've seen in various points this year. The Man United games, for example, as well, at home, is one that springs to mind. My worry was the work rate rather than sort of not having the focal point. I listened to the official Wolves podcast today on a quick drive somewhere, and they were talking about us missing the focal point in Strand-Larsen. But my worry was that the work rate that Strand-Larsen gets through is going to not be there in comparison to having Cunha there. We've obviously got a much better technical footballer playing at the top of sort of the three up front with Menezes and Bellegarde. But I just think the inclusion of Cunha as your focal point in the middle and your sort of the end point of your attack means that he's going to want the ball all the time. And when you play Man City, you just don't have it. Whether or not it's fun to watch, we could argue it out. But my concern was that we were going to miss his work rate rather than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. And sort of talking about what else he brings there, Tom, is with Marshall Manetzi as well. Him and Jurgen Strand-Larsen, they stretch the play, they drag us up the pitch almost. We kind of become a little bit compressed looking at that team lineup, didn't we? And everything was played a little bit too much in midfield.
Yeah, it's also the width as well. Because I think we when we're defending under Vitor, we seem to be defending quite narrow. And it was very much evident in the City game where we'd have sort of a bank of 3 and then a bank of 4, but then going forward, obviously the wing backs are so high and wide that I think it does sort of stretch it, although it is sort of compacted from a sort of a vertical point of view. I think horizontally, I do think we tend to stretch it quite well with the fullbacks, and that sort of gives us the midfield, well, the forward 3, if you want to call them that, sort of a bit more freedom, really.
Yeah, I can see that point. Looking at that, Greg, how did you feel about that front 3 going into the game? Obviously, it's a slight difference and a variation to what's brought us to the sort of run of wins that we've been on. But how did you think those 3 would sort of interact with each other?
Yeah, I think for me, when I saw the team, I assumed, and I think it did happen for the first 10 minutes, I assumed Manetzi would play as the 9, as the more physical player, and for Bellegarde and Cunha to play off that. And kind of look at it that way. I think obviously Bellegarde had some knocks and been in and out, but has generally played well, particularly since Vitor's come in. His ball carrying has been good.
Yeah,
so for me, it's a lot of logic.
Yeah, I think he's been a divisive figure, but very, very good. Marshall Manetzi, I think he's somebody who's been sort of a massive Marmite footballer, isn't he, Greg? I mean, he's somebody who brings different ability in different situations, but he's useful as part of the squad.
Yeah, he's an effective presence, and I think you've got to look at it on those credentials. So it's like, what is Vitor looking for? He's looking for who can run, who presses, that's physical, that can change and can cover, and he does that very well. There are other deficiencies, which is where the Marmite comes in.
Yeah,
but certainly if you look at those elements, he leads from the front, he closes down, he's got a physical presence, and he works hard and he moves forward. And for those things, that's very useful, and that allows us to move forward as a team. But yeah, there are deficiencies, which I'm sure we'll come on to as we go through this. But yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I think he's sort of the man of the moment, isn't he? And I think if we talk about him straight away, Ed, is Bellegarde makes a very, very, very good run early on in this game, and as we started the game very, very, very strongly as a team, and against Man City, that's quite a surprising thing. But Marshall Manetzi, almost Gaza-esque, stretching there at the back post. It's a good chance, but it's difficult for Manetzi to score there, surely.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm just looking at it. I think full stretch.
He's not anticipated. For me, I think both players could do better there. It's not a great pass from Bellegarde, who has under Vitor become the footballer we thought we were going to buy when we bought him last year. Sort of someone ready-made for once rather than sort of a youngster. Manetzi's on his heels for me. I think he needs to be getting in there. He hasn't gambled. He's obviously his positioning. I think whether or not what he came in as is sort of this defensive midfielder, sort of box-to-box midfielder is one thing, but he hasn't gambled. He's assumed Bellegarde's going to shoot and not do the good old FIFA pass across the box and tap it in, sweaty goal. I think both players are at fault. I think it's not a great pass from Bellegarde, who is conscious of Diaz. I think it's Diaz chasing him down, and Manetzi just. We'll talk about his ability. On the ball, he's bloody awful. And that's obviously not what he's in the side for. But in a game where you're not going to have much of the ball, we needed to capitalise on these moments, and he hasn't anticipated the pass, and the pass hasn't been good enough for him to get onto. I think it's a criminal miss for me. I think that changes the entire the game. He then can be really much more effective going forward if we'd have put that chance in, because then Man City would have had to do more than pass the ball sideways.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just being a bit kind because he's not Jorgen Strand Larsen. Because I just think JSL buries that every day of the week, and the sort of form that he's in is he's going to be scoring that. Do you think Ed's got a point there, Tom, with Bellegarde, that he should be shooting? Because I think that's probably the best opportunity to score the goal in that situation.
I was screaming for him to square it when I was watching live.
So was I.
Yeah, I must admit. I'm probably leaning towards maybe it's more on Bellegarde than Menezzi. I think Ed's right. I think I think, is it someone on the group? It was I'm not going to claim ownership of this, but it was a great one. It was like, from Football Manager wise, like Menezzi's got stamina of 20 and pace of about 3. He's all stamina. He's got absolutely no speed whatsoever on the ball or off the ball. But he does keep popping up in these situations. It's a real quandary, really, because he's definitely the profile that we need in this system, 100%, because it seems to just be working so well. Whether he's the player for the team, I'm not sold yet, and we might maybe see in the summer, maybe there'll be a similar sort of mould of player that will play ahead of him. But yeah, on the chance, I do think Bellegarde could do a lot better. I think if that's a Man City player, that's an easy square and it's an easy tap in. So I am leaning a bit more towards Bellegarde's error on that one, but I don't think the error was making the decision to square it. I think he's done the right thing to square it. It's just that the pass wasn't good enough, and Menezzi probably is sort of on his heels a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that obviously he's not a striker, and his abilities as a footballer are very, very limited. But he seemed to struggle a lot in terms of the footballing side of things yesterday, Greg. And his touch seemed worse than normal. His passing was worse than normal.
Yeah.
I just feel frustrated by him sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, he started the game in the 9 in the position. And then after about the first 10 or 15 minutes, he kind of swapped with Cunha, and Cunha took the role. And I think the problem is in that system, you've either got to get it out to the wing backs and allow them to exploit, or you need the 10s or the inside forwards here. So in this case, Menezzi and Bellegarde, to both be able to kind of bring the ball forward, to kind of run with the ball and commit players. And certainly that's what, that's Cunha's job. He sits, it made Cunha less effective because he was directly marked. Cunha wants to sit between the lines, pick up the ball, turn and run. We see that all the time. The fact is, when the ball was getting played through to Menezzi, his first touch was poor. He wasn't controlling it, and then it gets lost. Bellegarde also had a similar kind of game that he likes to spin with the ball and then bring forward from there, and he was getting shackled. So as a result of that, the ball kept breaking down and recycling, and as Ed said, then the sideways passing begins. And I think that's where we really kind of broke down for us yesterday. We didn't have a person that could bring us as a team up the pitch. We would get out of defence. So I would say Totti played well, but Agba doing that. So we were solid enough at the back and organised, but we couldn't get through the lines to get out, and then it was constantly back on us again, particularly after the first 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know whether it's a good sign going into the summer, Ed, that obviously the team looks less balanced when Cunha is the main striker and JSL's not there. But knowing that we're going into the summer, probably losing Matheus Cunha, it's like a 99% probability now. If we invest that money into a striker to support JSL, who's in a similar mould, we're going to be more balanced as a side going into that season, aren't we? And I think that style of football is more suited to what Vitor Pereira wants. And we can kind of see that is going to be the way we're going to play football. That's going to be, as Greg said on here, identity. It's probably going to help us and help us form what we want to do going forward, isn't it?
Yeah, and this ridiculous run we've been on, which is unprecedented for 50 odd years or something, means that these last few games can be experimental, really. to try things out, to see whether a Manetzi and Bellegarde, attacking midfielders or inside forwards, does that work? And the fact that against Man City team, they had some moments where they did something. It gives us a chance to try things out, doesn't it? And yeah, we had the discussion on the last show I was on whether or not, thinking with the Cunha thought in mind of that he's 99% going, as you said, Jafo, whether or not it's worth playing him now, or could we use this time to experiment even more? I think probably Vitor's in rock and a hard place here. Can we start planning for next year with the thought that he won't be here? And does that mean then we drop one of the best footballers that's probably pulled on a Wolves shirt when he's on his day in Cunha? He's in a difficult. It's a difficult but good place to be for him. But I think these next few games that we've got now, everything's set in stone that we're going to finish where we're finishing, and the teams below us, and not just including the bottom three, are all worse than us. We've got 3 more games to experiment now.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I think the likes of Gonçalo Guedes and Panky Chan will want to play more football, and they've ones who've struggled for minutes this season, Tom. And seeing these players and having this stronger squad is a good situation. There was another big chance in the first half, and it's fell to somebody who has quietly gone around about his business. I mean, outside of the Wolves circle and the Wolves bubble and balloon, he's not really talked about because of Anthony Robinson at Fulham. He has taken the limelight, but that's Ryan Aït-Nouri. And he has the most goals and assists combined of any defender this season. And he probably should have added another one to that, because he's hit the post and he's had a shot that's beat Edison and got cleared off the line. I mean, it's a massive chance, isn't it, Tom?
It is, yeah. I mean, you say he's not had much outside the Wolverhampton area. For anyone who watched it on Sky, I mean, Carragher was trying to sell him every single minute of the game or every time he touched the ball. So Carragher's probably got Liverpool on the case. I think he's everyone's number 2 who can't get Kirkes, is my feeling. So if City and Liverpool both want a left back, as allegedly is in the press, I think one will get one and one will get the other. But on the chance, I think again, he's got in a great position. He's another one who's just got a knack of just getting in the right position this season. And he's not done much wrong, has he, really? He's beaten Edison and it's hit the inside of the post frustratingly, and then his second shot he's hit true and hard, done exactly what he should have done, and obviously someone's just got back on the line in time to clear it. So yeah, I was gutted. That was the sort of, after that happened, it was one of those where I thought this might not be our day today. I think we had to take one of those 2 chances to sort of get a proper foothold in the game, because City were always going to get a chance or 2. So yeah, it was frustrating more than anything, but no blame on Aït-Nouri's part. I think he's done all he could from that position, really, and it was a great move. It was a great move, really free flowing football, which was great to see.
I agree, mate. I think it was a very, very good chance, and he did fantastically with it. But some of them, it goes for you. Sometimes it goes for you, sometimes not. Looking at it there, Greg, I mean, the way that we've been able to manipulate the way that fullbacks, as you've been talking about already, into the game and using them as an attacking threat, it's set up quite nicely for Aït-Nouri and Semedo to be involved, isn't it? And looking at the players that we've got as well on the outskirts, so we've got Pedro Lima, you've got Hugo Bueno out on loan, you've got Rodrigo Gomez. We've got some really, really good options in those positions, haven't we?
Yes. And the way that with the 2 centre midfielders plus the back 3, it really allows them to kind of, it really accentuates their more positive aspects, which is more forward thinking as opposed to, defensively. I think that was a challenge for us with the back 4. When we had these 2 and Nelson as the 2 fullbacks, I think they're much better going forward than they are going backwards. And I think it does allow them to be a lot more creative and also have more license to move forward and be more influential. So yeah, I think again it's kind of Nero-esque. I mean, if we all remember the diagonal balls from Cody out to the fullbacks or the wingbacks, it is a kind of similar pattern of play that we've got there, and I think it does really suit these players, particularly Ryan, and allows him to kind of really demonstrate his ability.
Yeah, I think it's definitely set up, and you can see the balance and the way that the side's set up now to work long term, Ed. And as Tom says, I mean, we should have probably put one of those two chances away because the inevitable happens. Doku, who had a very, very good game, I thought, for Man City, and somebody who's not been in the greatest of form for them, sort of slips, gets the ball across to Kevin De Bruyne, the man in his penultimate game at the Etihad as a Man City player. Doesn't score a very, very great finish, but it's in the back of the net nonetheless and puts City 1-0 ahead.
Yeah, it's a goal of individual errors as well, isn't it? That's what's happened there. Andre, for once, gives the ball away in midfield, trying maybe to do a little bit too much rather than playing it simple, which is what he normally does. And then Doku against our Doc one-on-one is never really going to end well. I think he overcommits when Bellegarde's actually covered him really well inside. I think we've had two mistakes there, and then, as you said, it's not the greatest of finishes, but it's hard on target and it's going through plays, isn't it? And Bellegarde's half a yard away from getting a foot on it as well. It's the one time there was sort of a breakdown in Wolves' positioning, and our back three was kind of pulled apart a little bit and wasn't the tight unit it normally is. And with Andre losing the ball, we're already a man down. They've sort of flooded the box, and Doku's got Doc on skates, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at it, Tom, I mean, the fact that we've restricted Man City to very, very few chances, and that being the sort of standout out-and-out chance of the game for them, it's incredible considering how far we've come from where we were at the start of the season in terms of a defensive shape and defensive ability to now restricting, previous champions and one of the best sides in the world and to very, very minimal chances.
Yeah, 100%, and even more so when you consider how awful we were up until January. Really, he's really got a system in place, and it's just got us organised, really. And again, I was every single time we conceded a set piece, under O'Neill's reign, I was almost expecting a goal to happen, or at least a really good chance, and that seems to have stopped as well. You're always going to get, the odd few, but I'd love to see the stats on that because I don't think we've conceded many at all from set pieces under Pereira's reign. So not only in play has he got us really organised, but obviously, from dead balls also. Just gutting thing about that is the goal. It didn't even come from that, did it? We were in our attacking shape, unfortunately. That obviously Andre's lost it in a. We don't know if we ever said this, but he's lost it, in the middle of the park, and I think Semedo was our furthest man forward. He was obviously because our wing backs play so high and wide. He was so far up the pitch, and then everyone's out of shape. And then, it's a knock-on effect, isn't it? Doc's one-on-one against Doku, which is absolutely what you don't want. Because as good as he's been, a tricky winger like that is usually got the beating of him. And then, there's a man free in the box, and unfortunately it's gone in. And like you say, it's incredibly frustrating because we'd done so well until that point to limit them to pretty much nothing, really.
Yeah, and looking at the way that we played in the game, we were playing with such confidence, Greg, and seeing that the way that Vitor Pereira has actually got these players playing, it's refreshing, isn't it, that we were able to bring this sort of like Samba-style football. I think there was a moment when Bellegarde did a little black back heel, and then Ike Nouri did a little roulette, and it was the Man City players were sort of on toast a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, we all know winning breeds confidence and brings through positivity, and people are then bought in. But it does feel like we've got the right players in the right position now. They understand it and they are working effectively in a team. And like Ed said at the start, you're going into games like that, positive. You're feeling quietly confident. I think that was the phrase you used, Ed, and I couldn't agree more. You're kind of like, okay, we're not going to steamroll them. This Man City we're talking about, how much money. But you feel like you can get a result. Certainly when I walked into the ground on Friday night, there was a quiet confidence. We may not win, but we certainly could get a point out of this. And, on the balance of play, I think we probably deserved a point. If I'm honest, City didn't crack. They had more corners than they did. Okay, they had a lot more possession, but a lot of it was in midfield and going around in triangles. It was very much side to side. So, if you looked on the balance of play, you you couldn't complain if we'd have got a draw. City fans wouldn't be able to complain. So, and to look at that from where we, like you said, Tom, from where we were November time, and you look at like the Ipswich home game and stuff like that, it's levels above that. And I think that's the thing that we're looking at. And like you said at the start, it's giving us confidence to go into next season.
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%. We did have one more chance, Ed. It fell to Gav's favourite player, Matheus Cunha. Man in form, he's back. He ran and he kept running at the Man City defence, and he almost catches Edison out with this one, doesn't he? When he hits the post.
Yeah, it's why we are a little bit salty maybe about him leaving us, and the way he's done it is because he made that chance all by himself. It didn't, I don't know how you felt, Greg, watching it at the actual game, but listening to Jamie Carragher, as Tom said earlier, trying to sell Ryan Aït-Nouri to the highest bidder. He was doing pretty much the same whenever Cunha had the ball, and he made this out of nothing, didn't he? Cunha, he picks up the ball. There's a few players around him. He makes a little bit of room, and with barely any backlift, he hits the post out of nowhere. It's why we didn't want that £62.5 million release clause, isn't it? We know he's probably worth more than that, especially to a Premier League team that has seen he can do it in this league. He's the only player in our team that would make that chance. No one else would even try it, and he's the difference maker. And he's half a yard away, just like Manetzi was from scoring, and the difference was he made that all himself.
Yeah, and he reminds me in that moment, and the way you described it was quite nice, Ed, because it reminded me of another Barclays man, and that was Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank with that shot. It was struck with venom, and there was, just as you said, no backlift. It was absolutely beautiful. It really took me back. Moving on to what we could have sort of said about us sort of being glazed by the media because of our recent form. And Vitor Pereira's really been getting it, Tom, and him going out to the Wolverhampton, drinking with the fans, and it was a little bit too much on Sky for those who watched it and those who watched Micah Richards talking to him. It was all just a little bit too commercialised, and they were joking too much about this. Did you feel a little bit frustrated watching it, Tom?
It's just that there was no fanfare whatsoever for weeks and weeks and weeks to take Asian to realise, and now they've just sort of overdone it a little bit, really. And I think even Pereira, when his interview pre-game, was a little bit nonplussed by it all. He sort of tried to downplay it as much as he could, because I must have mentioned it about 3 or 4 times, and he kept banging on about the fact it's not about the beer, it's about connection with the fans and things like that. But that didn't stop him, unfortunately. Yeah, whatever. We know Sky are only interested in the top 6 teams, or the Sky 6. So yeah, just let them have their moment, talk about Wolves for 5 minutes, and I'm sure they'll move on to something else.
Yeah, they'll be a new flavour of the week next week, and it is what it is. As you say, they only care about the major teams, which bring the money in. But Vitor Pereira has been quite refreshing since he's come in, Greg, and I think to move away from Gary O'Neill, and he's talking about odds, and he's talking about, we kind of deserve to win this game and not based on the odds, and now we've got Vitor Pereira's come in, and for those who are watching on YouTube, his quotes after the game, but he's brought this sort of attitude in that is all about retaining identity, retaining effort levels, retaining wanting to do magical technical things for the fans. It's good to finally have an adult back in the room, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's what you want to hear from a manager. It's clear, it's concise, and it's positive. You just felt you got towards the end of Gary O'Neill's and everything was a complaint, everything was a moan. And don't get me wrong, at the beginning of last season, we had some absolute shockers from VAR. We all know that. But it just felt, it got to that, the world was on his shoulders, everything was on top of him. It was kind of just a real negative. Whereas even from Friday, it's like, yeah, we've got there, we know what we're doing, we're working together. Okay, it didn't work, but we've got a plan and we're all bought in and we're going to move forward. And just that connection with the fans. He's put that effort in. He's the one that's tried that. Yes, okay, results help, of course they do. But you look at that, and as they said, Sky looking at it from the beer side and all that, and that's crap, and we all know that's just laziness. But the point he's making underneath is he wants to understand that connection, get that vibe, get that buy-in, because he knows if he can get the fans behind and he can get them passionate, then that will drive the team forward. So, you just can't fault the guy at the moment. His approach is out.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we're sort of one soundbite away from hearing Dreaming is for free, because it is very Nuno-esque. I mean, the football might be different, but the personality and the philosophical side of things and looking at it from a holistic view is very much the same, Ed. And again, for those watching on YouTube, I mean, there's some stats on there. This run is unprecedented that we've been on. I mean, we're still technically on it. We're still one of the form teams in the league, Ed. It's wonderful to see that the effort levels that they're putting out there and the ability that they're showing on the pitch has given us the fruits of their labour,
Yeah, and there's no quarters given, is there, with Vitor? That's the difference. I think we can see the difference in the setup of the team from the teas made to now, and he's owning this as a defeat rather than trying to, as the other lads have said, trying to find some kind of excuse or, don't forget we hit the post twice and we were 3 millimeters away from scoring and pass me another tee. We don't have any of that nonsense anymore. He's owned it. He said we should have done better. We're learning from it. And you see when they're warming up, we are doing set pieces. We aren't just aimlessly doing rondos and flicking people's ears right now because we can't. There's still too much work that needs to be done because it was in such a bad place from where he took it over from Gary O'Neill, that there clearly was not a culture. And just my little 2 pence on the Sky crap is that they're always behind the 8 ball now with podcasts like what we do and all the other various outlets out there. Sky only get to talk about a game in between ad breaks, and they are 2 weeks behind the 8 ball because they don't care about anyone really apart from those adverts that they're playing. And they've gone, oh, you like a pint, don't you? They've completely missed the point that he's over here. He's trying to get to know the culture of the club, the culture of the city. Wolverhampton being a one-team city, it's a completely different setup to anything he would have known before in all the different places. And it's what Wolverhampton's nightlife has had a huge bonus from what he's done. But also you can see it on the pitch with the way the team are playing. They're all playing for each other, which they weren't before. And he's just. Well, hopefully it continues, but right now he's galvanising the squad in only the way I've seen Nuno do in recent years, other than the McCarthy year when we had those bunch of misfits that got into the playoffs. When he did that, then we're going back in time before my time, I think, to see Graham Turner sort of and the Bully signing and stuff before we galvanise the team the way Vitor is right now. We're on hopefully the precipice of something quite special.
Yeah, I think you put it quite well there, Ed, to be honest. I think talking about Vitor Pereira, I don't know for a fact whether he's got his family here or not, but if he hasn't, then him going out and spending time with the fans is spending his time with his family at the end of the day, because we are, as a football club, a family, and we are treating him as such, and he's a big part of everything that we're proud of at the moment, because we are very, very proud of where our football team has come and got to. And that appreciation is shown even in a lost Tom. And I mean, I've seen a few people on TikTok and Twitter talking about it's a bit of a joke that they went over and sort of did the hands up in the air for the fans. But it's the fact that they're showing respect and thank for all the people who travelled to City. It's healthy, isn't it? Because it's a good position to be in.
Yeah. I wouldn't want us to make a habit out of it. I think it was good to do, to an extent, because it shows that win, lose or draw, if the effort's there, the performance is there from all, all the above, then celebrate it together. I don't think I'd want us to do it every time we lose. To be honest, I think it was good to do as maybe a one-off. But I think if it happens regularly, it's a bit small time. I think so. Yeah, I wasn't against it as such, as a one-off.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it just sort of keeps that momentum going a little bit. And talking about one sort of like final bit of the game was the fact that we, like in a Nuno side, kept going to the end, Greg, and it was the 90th minute again, really pushing. And a surprise man turned up in the Man City box that Jose saw, and I think that's a fantastic still. And that says a lot about where we are, isn't it? That we've got a goalkeeper pushing to want to score a goal as well.
Yeah, and he got a big cheer from the away end when he was making his way up. You could see him creeping up, and as he got towards the halfway line, we realised what was going on, and he did get a big cheer for it. And again, he was fully committed, went in for it. And like you said, we were fighting to the end. We got a couple of corners towards the end, and we were really, we weren't going to sit back and just take it. We did try and push forward, done it slightly earlier. But yeah, nevertheless, we did, kept going, kept fighting to the end, and that's what you want to see as fans, isn't it? That's the minimum. You want to see your team battling all the way to the end.
Yeah, we really do, and I think that ties in quite nicely with everything that's sort of happening at the club. Some sort of away from the game, some news that came out, and I'm quite new to this news because I haven't really been following. I've been slightly busy, but Dan Purdy looks like he's joining Wolves. He's coming from Everton. He's been working as their head of scouting most recently. Has worked in pretty much every role at Everton on that side of things, and he's worked at Liverpool with their youth side. The fact that they're looking to bring in somebody like this who could potentially go to South America or go to other parts of Europe and find players who are slightly cheaper, maybe not been found by other clubs, it shows that we're putting a lot of time and effort into bringing players in who are ready-made, like we've seen with Agbadou and we've seen with Marshall Manetzi. But we were also looking at developing players as well, and there is a long-term project still there with Fosun.
Yeah, there has to be, doesn't there? I've not seen this either, Jafo, so I'm just quickly having a read of it. But we've seen with this, and it's been mentioned in the comments by some of the lads talking in the Fosun self-sustainable model. It can only work to any extent if we can do more Joao Gomez's and Andre's, bringing them in for a certain amount of money and sell them for twice as much than it is like arguably overpay like we did for Cunha and a few other players. We don't have that kind of budget. So if we can sign someone with some kind of pedigree, but also what comes with him is his little black book of agents that he knows, agents that he works with, so that they might have someone that can throw us our way. My only, if I was to give a thought here, what we can see on screen for the audio listeners is some of the signings that he's talked about being, by the looks of it, being part of, is Jack Harrison, Lindstrom, Broja, and Alcaraz. And I'd only have one of those players at the club, and that's Alcaraz. So maybe his little black book is maybe not what we're hoping it is, but it's another string to the bow, right? And it's another opportunity, and it's someone that if Everton want to keep him, he must have some kind of cachet within the scouting community. So we can't just leave it all to Matt Hobbs, because on one person's head, when things go awry, like we saw with Sellers, it can easily turn quite toxic, can't it?
Yeah, and I think bringing somebody in between. I don't think there is a head of scouting at the moment, or there isn't somebody in that sort of position at Wolves. The fact that we're looking at that, Tom, it shows that we're sort of healing in terms of how we look at transfers and how we look at bringing in younger players and developing them, doesn't it?
I think so. I think our youth, they don't seem to be doing much, to be honest. You get an occasional one, but even then, they always seem, the real good ones, they seem to get snapped up, don't they, by the bigger clubs before they've even broke into sort of, the under-21s, really. So yeah, I had that thought. I thought it was maybe more to do with sort of like youth signings and things like that, because like Ed said there, you sort of have a little look back at, when you're looking at signing someone from a club, a scout, you look at their sort of history, and I wouldn't say Everton have had a great history, recent history, I would say, in the transfer market. So I don't know how much influence he's had on that. Plus, we've been able to, our South American sort of scouting seems to be working quite well at the moment. So if this is a look to the youth, then like I say, it's another string to the bow, isn't it? And I doubt it can be anything other than a help. They've obviously seen something in him, and if Everton are going to be having all this money and they want to keep him, then maybe he's someone worth having.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of talk going on outside of the men's game, but the fact that we are looking at bringing in potentially somebody who's going to bring in a lot of new youth talent, Greg, is good, because the way we're looking at with the academy, that was potentially getting downgraded in status because of the the lack of money going in there and the lack of focus on developing youth talent at Wolves. So it shows that Fosun still have this long-term plan of developing players for 5-10 years in the future, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see the role our friend Mr. Mendes plays this summer as well. I think he's going to, whether we like it or not, I think he's going to have quite a big bearing. You've got, obviously, he represents a number of players that may be leaving this summer, Semedo, Fabio. So I think he's going to have an impact, and it's whether he's going to have an impact just on the outgoings or if he's going to have an impact on the incomings as well. So he's going to be, I think he's going to have quite a big influence. And obviously we saw with Rodrigo Gomez coming in, whether we're going to have a hybrid, let's call it a Portuguese-speaking transfer approach, where we're going to get an equal amount from Portugal and Brazil in. So we'll just see how that pans out. But if his focus is going to be on the youth, then I think that will be a good kind of segmentation. And as you said, Tom, we don't seem to be seeing any likely candidates coming through to the first team at the moment, which is a shame, really. Particularly for a minute.
I think so. I think it can only be good if we see the right things happening. I think we won't see that for the next few years, so it's going to be a long-term change if we do see anything. There was sort of nothing prepared for something I want to talk about, Ed, because I don't know whether it's been mentioned, but obviously Wolves women had a very, very good season. And it's very much part of Sky Sports News and the situation that's happened there. I just wanted to garner your thoughts on it and the fact that the club didn't apply for the paperwork to promote the club, that if they got into a position where they could.
Yeah, it just feels like a shit show, doesn't it? I think it's why you have to put that in writing at the start of every season. That was an eye opener for me, because I didn't realise that's what had to happen in football leagues. But we probably shouldn't be surprised, because we've seen a constant downgrade on not just the women's game, but also in the men's game for the youth team, like we just talked about. Growing up like I did, we always had someone from the youth team come through, and that was something that Wolves, even when we're in the Championship, we could pride ourselves on. That the leagues up and below us and above us were littered with ex-Wolves academies that we don't see now. I think we're going down to the point of this self-sustainable model for Fosun is purely just for the men's first team. Everything else seems like it's second fiddle, and it's an absolute shocker, because Wolves ladies over the last few years have had league titles stolen from them from COVID and lockdowns and not having the right, some administration type stuff. For this one now is an absolute, it seems like an absolute shower from the club to not put them forward. And for them to do that the week after they were promoting, going to the game at the men's game on the Saturday afternoon for the Leicester game, it just shows there's maybe no joined up thinking.
Yeah, I think it's massively disappointing. Do you have any thoughts on it, Tom and Greg? About the situation and how Wolves, well, one, should have approached it, and two, fix what's happened?
Do you want to go first, Tom, or do you want me to?
No, go on. You go on, mate.
I think the way it's been comms, the way it's been managed, if you're going to make a decision like that to start with, then you need to be clear up front. You know what I mean? It's the same as in any walk of life. People appreciate honesty and transparency. You know, and if you're saying, listen, guys, this is where we're at, this is how we're going to move forward this season, we're not going to set up, we don't feel we're in a position to support that level of football or whatever, then at least you're open and transparent. Particularly, as you can see, there were 3 points off. There were 1 win, they were out of it. And I think you need to be able to and give people a clear understanding. And to find out at such a late stage, you know, it's going to be a kick in the teeth for anyone, you know, and I think that's for me the starting point. If you're going to go out and you're going to set out a stall, then you need to be clear with people and you need to have that honesty and transparency. And then the same with the fans after. And it just feels like they were like, oh, well, we'll be all right. We probably won't get promoted and we'll get away with it. And that's just not the attitude that you can have. You know, it was pretty clear in terms of one pack and all this stuff. And there's, you know, the women's team is heavily featured on the website, and quite rightly so, I hasten to add. So you've got to then follow that through. I mean, it'd be interesting last home game, because I'm sure you guys are aware, last home game of the season, they normally have both teams on the pitch and they do the Player of the Season awards and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, whether that happens again or something happens. But, you know, I just feel like that was, for me, was the important thing, is the integrity and being people up front. And it's disappointing that the club haven't done that.
Yeah, very, very good point. Have you anything to add on it, Tom? Before I'll move on to some more positive things.
Yeah, I think it's classic what we've seen from Wolves, isn't it, the last few years? And it is, rightly or wrongly, I mean, I don't know, you know, there's obviously Liam Keane reported a lot of it, so saying that it was very, I'm not sure I believe all of it, to be honest, but basically they were saying that they don't agree with the process, you know, they don't agree with the rules, and if we'd have gone up, then they'd have fought tooth and nail to go against the rules, but the rules are the rules at the end of the day. So, you know, what gives you the right to think that you can't follow the rules? It's just all the communication aspect of everything, like you know, under She's tenureship over the last couple of years. You know, I don't know if there's people in between him and making decisions. They need to have a look at themselves, because you know, there can't be many people who look at that and think that that's the right way to handle that situation. There definitely needs to be a better sort of process involved in that. And I think I read that maybe the head of the women's team's left or something this week. I think they've resigned. So obviously that's not a great look, is it? You know, so I don't think they'll make that mistake again. And I think she's got a daughter, hasn't he? I think, you know, what's that say to her and, you know, people of his family, that, you know, he doesn't value the women as much as the blokes. It's a bit shit, really, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. And I think it's a frustrating thing to happen, because everything else around the club seems quite positive at the moment, and having these little packets and pockets of negativity coming and finding themselves back into our ethos is very, very, very annoying. So I sort of said that we'd talk about something a bit more positive. Before that, as always, at Wolves Fancast, we have got some new merch this season. And as a shill that I am in my Linus Tech Tips ways, is we have this weekend, up until tonight, midnight, Sunday, BST, we're bringing you free shipping on, free UK shipping, otherwise, free UK shipping on every order. That is on our merch store. That is wolvesfancast.teemill.com. That is wolvesfancast.teemill.com. As well as that, we have a new partnership that has only happened in the last couple of weeks, and that is with thebootchamber.com. If you are in the market for football boots or any kind of football attire in terms of footwear, you can go to thebootchamber.com and use discount code FANCAST10 to get 10% off your order. That's 10% off with FANCAST10 at thebootchamber.com. And I think we talk about football boots is probably a good time to talk about something else that we're doing in the next couple of weeks. And I'll come to you first on it, Greg. Obviously, we're doing the Fancast charity game. This will be your first one. It's something really, really fun to do, but to do it for a local charity that we're doing it for in the Good Shepherd. it's a fantastic cause, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a wonderful organisation, and the club has supported them as well, as we know, through a number of initiatives. So to follow in that process and to support a great local organisation is something I'm really looking forward to doing. I'm not sure if my body will be looking forward to it so much these days, getting a bit older, but certainly, and for us to be able to, really give back to Wolverhampton is something I'm really proud and pleased to be able to do.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. It's disappointing that you're not going to be with us, Ed. I know you're on holiday, but the fact that we're raising money for some as Greg said, for a local charity who's done a lot with Wolves, it's nice to bring it back home for this one, isn't it?
Yeah, and like I've said a few times when we've been shilling it, for the want of a better word, if you just have a look at the Good Shepherd and go on some of their stories, if you can come out of that without at least welling up a little bit for the work that they do with the people that they support, then you're a different man to I am, because it's some of the stories on there are heartbreaking, and they're just the ones that they've been able to share. So there's going to be countless others that the people that they help. So not that Mind isn't a great charity that I know we've supported in recent years, but it kind of goes hand in hand with the work that Vitor and the men's team have done about making things a bit more Wolverhampton focused, doesn't it? With what we're doing this year with this great charity.
Yeah, and that sort of brings it home, Tom, that we're able to do such enjoyable things like this. And it'd be mine and yours third time to play at Molineux, and every year is such a one pleasure, but two, it sort of it brings it back home that we're able to do this sort of thing, and it feels like a massive privilege to be able to, one, be part of what we do here, but two, be able to bring our love to football to the pitch of Molineux and sort of the home of football for us as Wolves fans. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for 5 minutes, and then for the rest of the time, when absolutely nothing left in the legs after 5 minutes of sprinting around like a maniac. It's great. It's like I think the other lads touched on it really well there. It's just like that community feel. We're all Wolves fans, got a common love with Wolves, and it's great. We were lucky enough last year, Jafo, to be in the dressing room, like the Wolves dressing room. Yeah. About 15, 16 of us in there are Wolves fans sitting in the Wolves dressing room, just talking about football, about the game. Obviously, it was fantastic. I think we were 3-0 down at half time, managed to pull it back to win 4-3, and like the buzz at the end of the game in the change room was fantastic, and it's that real sense of community, and it was it was such a fantastic experience, and to do it, to raise money for.
Yeah, I think it's to raise money for such a good cause. It really makes you feel good and makes you appreciate everything that we're able to do. For those who are wondering, who want to give to the cause, and thank you to everyone who has done so far. I know Maximus Wright's donated, who's always in the comment section already, and we've already raised over £1,000, which is an incredible number so far. And I think applause to everyone who's donated so far. The link will be on YouTube comments. It is through our social media, but for anyone who hasn't seen it, I'll read it out. It's a little bit of a long one, but it's gsmwolverhampton.enthuse.com/pf/content creator classico 25. That's gsmwolverhampton.enthuse.com/pf. That is Polo Freddy. That's what I'll go with. I'm not sure why. /content creator classico 25. That's if you are able to give money, even the smallest of amounts, are massively appreciated, going towards a fantastic cause. But it is wonderful, and I hope to see some of you there. I mean, more information will be going on the socials. Hopefully, there'll be more information coming out about potential special guests as well. I can't say too much yet, but hopefully, that'll be coming out in the next few weeks. We'll sort of bring you back to the game for a minute. I just want to sort of wrap the podcast up by talking about sort of our man of the match for the game. It's always disappointing to do a man of the match for a game where you've lost, Ed, but after that performance, I think there's a few people who could be on there, even with the level dipping as it did. Who would you go for after that game?
I'm going to give it to Totti, who over the last few weeks has been giving me more heart attacks than not. But I thought he had a really solid game. He didn't have his Rockports on, so he had a couple of decent runs, and it would have probably gone to Agbadou, but I think Agbadou's distribution, especially to Aït-Nouri on the left, was probably where I would give him one criticism, if we are allowed to criticise Andre or Agbadou. So I'm gonna say Totti, but it was, I think everyone gave a decent performance, and it was just one of those games.
Yeah, I agree. How about you, Tom? Are you going for Totti Gomez or somewhere looking elsewhere in the side?
Totti was probably going to be my number one choice, to be honest. Again, I thought, he was brilliant, really, really solid. I'll give Aït-Nouri a shout out as well. That's one thing that's just coming to me, actually, we didn't touch on, was the potential red card. I don't know what people's opinions were on that. Because I must have missed it live, but then a lot of people now are coming out and saying that they think it should have been a red. I was sort of, I thought it had been a harsh red, although once it went to VAR and they checked it a few times, I thought it was going to get given. Yeah. But I've got a few neutrals' opinions, and most of them thought they didn't think it was, but I don't know, you've seen them given.
Yeah, I didn't want to give too much to it because of I don't really like talking about VAR. I'm kind of just over it now.
Yeah.
I think it's good for everyone's mental health to not talk about VAR decisions. How about you, Greg? I mean, we talk of Ryan Aït-Nouri and Totti Gomez, but is there anyone else that caught your eye, or is it just those two?
Yeah, I think so. I think, don't get me wrong, I think Agbadou was solid. He was strong up in the air, and he was solid. There was there. I think, like you say, his passing was slightly off. I'd say take either of those two, and I couldn't split the difference on them, to be honest. I think I'd go the same with Gomez or Ryan. I think for me in the ground, when it comes back to the red card briefly, what I noticed was there wasn't a lot of reaction from the home fans, and there certainly wasn't a lot of reaction from City players on the pitch. And that for me is a big indicator. Having played football, if you can see that the reactions now, and you can see it, and bearing in mind it wasn't a particularly dirty game. I don't think there was a single booking in the game, if my memory serves me correctly. So type of game, if you know what I mean. And the players and the home fans really kind of, it felt like it wasn't a red card at the time, and I'm glad that kind of prevailed. But yeah, either one of Totti or Ryan for me, and I wouldn't complain if we went either way on those.
Yeah, I think they're the two most sensible shouts. But I appreciate everyone joining with us and talking about the game. You three guys, obviously Ed, Tom, and Greg, coming here and having a chat about the game and taking your time up on a Sunday evening, even if it is a bank holiday weekend. Don't forget, if you are interested in donating, the link is on the screen there for people watching on YouTube. It will be on our social media. We've got more news coming about it every day, and as soon as we can update, we will update on potential special guests. Like I say, just watch this space. We might have something special for you guys planned. But yeah, please come and support us on the 30th of May. I hope I haven't got that wrong, but 30th of May, 7 p.m. kickoff, I believe. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in. Wolfsfoot, I'm losing my mind, I am. But to this review show in association with the Sports Social Podcast Network, fcquiz.app, and the Boston Coffee and Vending Company. I've been Jafo, and that was your review show, and we'll catch you next time. So, peace out, Wolves fans.